Hello and welcome to Byju's IAS. Let's get started and look into the first article. The first article says Regulation Light. This article here is speaking about the government planning to come up with certain guidelines to regulate the actions of the OTT media platforms. What are we speaking about? We have n number of OTT platforms. It can be Amazon Prime, Netflix, Hotstar, so on and so forth. These platforms currently are not regulated. They are completely independent. They are not governed by the rules and regulations of the government, which is why the government is now planning to come up with the guidelines and regulations to control all these OTT platforms. Previously, we have had an elaborate analysis with respect to the same issue on 12th of November 2020. So kindly look into the video. What is our focus today? Our focus today is that the government is planning to come up with this particular guidelines and regulations in order to overcome, in order to comply by these guidelines. All these platforms have come together and have operationalized a code of self-regulation. So let's try and understand what is this code of self-regulation all about. First up, when it comes to the OTT platforms, what we have seen is an increase when it comes to the subscriber base. What are the possible factors for the increase when it comes to the subscriber base? There are four reasons that we have to look at. First is the improvisation and the cheap affordability of the smartphones and the cellular data. When you look into the earlier scenarios, what you had is TVs that were present and you actually had to comply with the rules of the broadcast ministry as well. And now what you have is cheap affordable smartphones. So people are able to access all the data, people are able to surf the data, they would be able to use YouTube as well and any other platforms because the smartphone technology has made it simple for them to access all the data that is available throughout the world. And at the same time, with the incoming of the Jio and with the establishment of the Jio as a platform, when you go back and look at what was the cost of data, it was 1.5 GB, which was provided entirely for a single month. With the incoming of Jio, what we have is increased competition, which means that 1.5 GB data is provided for the people on a single day, and the affordability is also gone cheaper as well. The amount of data that you would be getting is more. We have increase of the smartphone subscriber base, and as a result, people are opting for entertainment program, sports programs, and multiple other reality checks and documentary as well. So the first important factor why there is an increase of the subscriber base with respect to the OTT platform is that we have cheap affordable smartphones and at the same time the cellular data is provided at an affordable price. Next is with respect to the creative talent. What do we mean by it? Let's say for example, when you look into the traditional setup, you also have the soaps or the serials that come up in your daily television. Apart from this, when you look at the films or let's say huge movies, what you had is a huge package. You also required directors, heroes, actresses and supporting actors as well. So this was something remote in nature where the accessibility and people who could access this very platform were limited. But with the incoming of the social media like Instagram or YouTube or any other similar platforms as well, you have new talents who are able to open up. So you have number of people who are exploring their talent. They have hidden talents within them. They come out on the YouTube channel, they come out on Instagram as well, and now ban TikTok as well. All these people are able to show what their talents is, and once their talent is discovered, these OTT platforms are giving them a life such that they are being casted in a particular documentary or in a particular series as well. So the second reason why OTT platform has more subscribers is that this is giving life to the new talents, how they are exploring their own opportunities and their skill set are being identified. The third is with respect to the censors and the vested interest. Let's say for example, as we discussed, when it comes to the movies, what exactly happens? We have what is called as the censor board. We have the Central Board of Film Certification, which is commonly called as the Central Board. This was set up under the Cinematography Act of 1952. Then there are other guidelines as well, rules as well, all these rules and the guidelines given by the censor board means that the original intent of the director or the storyteller is not able to reach the person who actually wants to visualize this particular movie. So what would happen? There'll be censor cuts, and as a result you have number of people opting this very idea of OTT platform because they can actually put out the original intent of the director and the storyteller. When it comes to the movies, what happens? There is certification, there is censor board. In case the censor board does not like certain visualizations, the movie director and the storyteller will have to take off or chop off certain scenes as well. But when it comes to the OTT platforms, they have a broader picture, they have a broader vision, and this will be appealing to the people who are watching that particular section of the movie as well. And as a result, we have more number of people who step into the shoes of what is called as this OTT platform. Finally, we had the disastrous consequence of COVID-19. COVID-19 may have hit multiple sectors as well. It might have also led to technical recession as well. Number of sectors like the service sector, tourism sector might also be hit as well. But one sector which took the advantage of it is the OTT platforms, because people were not able to go to the theaters, because the theaters were shut, because they did not have much to do, because they were stuck within the four walls of their houses. They needed some entertainment program to keep them and move them into their own real arena, which is why more number of people started paying money. They started engaging into the OTT activity, and as a result, most of the production houses, let's say for example G or Sony, they came up with their own OTT platforms, and which is why what we have is increasing cases or subscriber base when it comes to the OTT platform. After all this, the most important is the profit. Because there is profit, because of there is subscriber base, there are companies and organizations and production houses who are investing in the applications because they want to generate the profit. These are the reasons why there is increasing cases of subscriber base when it comes to the OTT platforms. All this is fair and good, which is giving more opportunities as well, but there are issues and concerns with respect to the OTT platforms as well. What are those issues and concerns? Let's say for example, when it comes to the OTT platforms, as we initially discussed, it gives a new provision for the director, for the storyteller, without any censors being cut, which also means he can also rake up issues in the society as well. India is a country which has its own religious base. It also has its own caste base as well. Yes, we know for the fact that freedom of expression is right. The director has the freedom of expression as well. But this is not absolute. It has reasonable restrictions as well. That does not mean you ignite passions in the society, go against a particular community or against a particular religion, which means that you are violating certain sections of the Indian Penal Code. What are we looking at? We are looking at the cultural and the religious aspect. So there are certain OTT platforms which have instigated people, and ultimately they have gone to the doors of the judiciary as well. Let's say for example, we take the recent controversy with respect to the Amazon Prime Video. There was one of the shows called as Thunder. According to people who filed cases in number of courts in India, they say that it hurt their religious sentiments, which means that the director or the storyteller of this web series was trying to say something which was igniting passions in the society, which was hurting the religious sentiments of the certain section of the people, which is why they have filed a case which is currently in the Supreme Court as well, and the Supreme Court and other high courts are also looking into it. But there is an angle that we have to look, that when there is certain sections of the society which is not happy with it, what will happen to this particular program. And there are cases of extreme sexual violence as well, which means that women are also not respected, which means it is giving rise to sexual exploitation, where there are certain teenagers who take this into reality as well, and as a result increasing cases of social disharmony. And because of sexual violence, what we required is guidelines that had to be released by the government. So the government is now planning to come up with a set of guidelines and directives for this OTT industry. In this particular backdrop, we have all these platforms and many others who have come on a common platform under the aegis of Internet and Mobile Association of India. they have come up with what is called as the self-regulation code. So what is this self-regulation code? So basically, when we speak about self-regulation, the government may come up with a particular draft rules and guidelines in the near future, but as of now, they on their own have come up with some guidelines which they on a voluntary basis will also comply by these guidelines. What are these guidelines? Let's say, for example, laws regarding to women and child rights. Let's say, for example, with respect to age control certification and parental control, abiding by the criminal law, which happens to be the Indian Penal Code. So all that this platform and the regulations that is under the Internet and Mobile Association of India will do is to comply by these rules which are prescribed by the IPC with respect to the women rules and also parental control when it comes to certification as well, which is what this article currently goes on to say. The article further says that this whole idea of voluntary guidelines and complying by the voluntary guidelines is also in line with INB Ministry's expert committee on film certification, which was chaired by Shyam Benegal. What was this committee all about? This was appointed by the INB Ministry. According to this particular committee, in case there are people who want to visualize something, this particular responsibility will be ultimately given to the viewers. So the viewers decide what they want to do, but there is a voluntary protocol that has to be followed by all these platforms. So basically, this particular committee goes on to say that certification with respect to the viewing age will only have to be given, and rest of it is the people who decide. And at the same time, this has to be on a voluntary basis and it has to be independent of the government, says the Shyam Benegal committee, which was appointed by the INB ministry. So in the present scenario, this code of self-regulation is on the lines of the Shyam Benegal committee, says this article. So going forward, in case the government does come up with a regulating body, this regulating body should be the one which will have multiple people representing the wider spectrum of the society, says this article. In case the government does not follow these rules, in case it comes up with too much rules and regulations, this will be a policed approach to films and media, which means only propaganda and its stores will be pushed through these OTT platforms. Instead, this will not give life to the freedom of expression, says the author. The author therefore concludes this particular article saying that this whole idea of censor, if it is coming into picture for the OTT platforms, this is not in line with the liberal society, says the author of this article. It is this that we have to understand in reference to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article says climate change resilience actions in step with India. The article here is putting out the perspective of the Australia. Why? Because the author here is the High Commissioner to India from Australia. Let us try and understand what is this article all about. The author here is picturing what is called as the global coordination when it comes to climate change. Climate change is a global issue. One single country cannot take the responsibility of it. So what he is requesting is the coordination, cooperation from multiple sectors and different countries of the world. So what does he say? For us to control the negative impact of the climate change and keep the temperature increase less than 2 degrees centigrade, what we require is the global community working together, adapting to new types of technology, and also make sure that there is global coordination with the global community. In this particular backdrop, he lays emphasis on what is called as the traditional indigenous knowledge. What is this indigenous knowledge? The indigenous knowledge is nothing but those contributed by the indigenous people. Who are these indigenous people? These are the people who have been living in that particular area for a long period of time. This can be centuries as well. They have been living in a particular area with the nature in a sustainable manner, in harmony with nature. They were not colonized on the basis of some other country infusing the ideas into this particular region. So who are those indigenous people? They are the ones who are living for a long period of time. They are not colonized by the thought as well as by the education and They have their own means and mechanisms. They live in harmony with the nature. Now what we have to focus is how do they live with the nature. When it comes to the modern technology, we have different tools and equipments. We have modern sophisticated forecasting and modeling systems as well. That is through the tools and mechanisms that we have developed in the modern era. But when it comes to the traditional society or the indigenous people, they collect all their information from the nature itself. They make the data from their nature and ultimately take their decision from the nature itself. So what do? They observe the trees, they observe the fruits, they observe the bird migrations, wind directions, even in fact the position of the stars as well. That is how they are able to come to a particular conclusion. When we look into the modern parlance, what we have is the complicated, sophisticated equipments. But when it comes to the traditional indigenous society, they live with the nature, and as a result, all the nature's work, all the information that nature provides is what is fed for the decision making when it comes to the indigenous society. But where is the problem area? The problem area is whenever we speak about climate change, we treat them only as victims. How? Let's say for example, when it comes to the climate change, who has contributed to it? It is the developed countries, and now it is also the developing countries as well. Historically, this was enhanced or increased because of the actions of the developed countries. So the author in the present scenario has gone on to say that we should not be treating these indigenous community only as the victims, but we have and we can take some information from this indigenous community as well. Since they are part of the nature, since they get their decision making skills from the nature, if they have something which can be utilized, which the modern tools and sophisticated equipments cannot provide, why not take this particular information from the indigenous community, says the author. In fact, he says when it comes to Australia, there were bushfires as well. So these bushfires were a major devastation to the forest ecosystem of the Australia, and as a result they were able to take some of the information from the indigenous people, and this led to actually controlling the bushfires as well. So what are we doing right now? We are not treating them as equal parallels, but instead we are treating them only as the victims, but they are not part of the policy making. So going forward, their ideas, their interpretations, their information should also be taken, and decisions and policies should be designed according to that as well. So it is not only about the modern tools and sophistications, but also taking the information from the traditional indigenous knowledge banks, which happens to be the indigenous people, says the author. So going forward, indigenous people who are living in some territories and ecosystems for centuries may have become best experts when it comes to knowing the environmental cycles and their processes in a particular region. So taking the information should help us serve the climate change, says the author. Further, he speaks about number of measures taken by the Australian government. One is they have built the infrastructure which is more resilient to drought and climate disasters as well, and as and when they have built this infrastructure, they have also exported the same to the global community, says the author. So what have they done? They have ensured resilience, and at the same time Australia is also committed to what is called as supporting the neighbors and the global communities to tackle the climate change. Now when it comes to India, they have always supported the very idea of coalition for disaster resilient infrastructure. What do we mean by it? This was a program initiated by India. According to this particular program, what we have seen is increasing cases of climate change. When there is increasing cases of climate change, this ultimately may lead to disaster. So what we require is tools and techniques and infrastructure which would be able to withstand the disaster. So India has come up with a plan, India has come up with a program. So the global community and now in Australia, they are planning to help India so that in case when we build buildings or we take measures, all this will be resilient to what is called as the disasters or climate change disasters. The author further goes on to say Australia is also engaging in the International Solar Alliance, where we are planning to harness the solar energy to provide an alternative source of energy in the form of solar renewable energy. Both the countries are part of the Australia India Joint Energy Dialogue, where they will have to strengthen the cooperation. One, when it comes to cost effective battery technology, fly ash management technology, solar forecasting, adoption of clean energy technology, for which what they require is the green technology. So Australia has already invested and is developing some of the green technologies for tomorrow, which will be shared with India as well as with the global community. So the author concludes this particular article by saying that we need to embrace innovation, strengthen global partnership. The global community has to come together and they need to engage all the stakeholders as well. So it is not only the responsibility of the government, it is also the responsibility of the private, the civil society, and the onus also falls on individuals and people as well. So the author concludes by saying that climate change is here. So what we require is practical solutions so that we become resilient to what is called as the climate change and its variations. It is this that we have to understand in reference to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article says in shrinking habitats desperate catch. The article here is speaking about tiger and human conflict. We have discussed about this particular issue n number of times on this very platform. Let's try and do something different today. When you look into this particular articles, there are about 6 to 7 topics which are very important from your preliminary examination point of view. What have I done? I have segregated and made sure that all these topics can be taken up as part of the assignment. Today, we would not be discussing all these topics. One is the Koya tribe, National Tiger Conservation Authority, Tadoba Andheri Tiger Reserve, Pranhita River, Tipeshwar Tiger Sanctuary, and Kaval Tiger Reserve. So what you need to do from your end is to make sure that you collect all the information about this particular topic. So make sure that you collect these particular information, put it on the comment section so that you can discuss on the comment section. So as part of the assignment, all that you have to do is to collect information that which is required from the preliminary examination point of view. From our side, we are going to discuss about what is called as Podu cultivation. What is Podu cultivation? It is a form of shifting cultivation that which is predominantly practiced by Adivasis on the forest lands. Basically, different areas of the jungle forest are cleared, they are burnt each year to make sure that there is cropping that takes place in this very region. They slash the trees for the open space, they burn this particular plants as well, and the ash will act as the fertilizers. After cultivating a piece of land, let's say for about 2 years or about 3 years, they also move to a new different plot as well, or a fresh patch, to allow the cultivated land to actually regenerate over a period of time. According to some statisticians and environmentalists, they say that this form of agriculture will obviously mean the forest cover is getting degraded in that particular area. So this article speaks about Podu cultivation. We have discussed about it, and as part of assignment, do come up with all the information that is required with respect to these topics. So when we are speaking about Pranhita River, you will have to come up and say where does it rise, which state it passes through, all of that. Where is Tipeshwar Tiger Sanctuary? Where is Kaval Tiger Sanctuary? In case there are any rivers passing through these tiger reserves, you may also have to say that as well. When it comes to Tadoba Andheri Tiger Reserve, is there any other unique attributes when it comes to this tiger reserve? Where are the Koya tribes? Which are the states that they are present in? What is their language? Is there any unique features or the festivals that they actually practice when it comes to that particular tribal specialty? All this will have to be put on the comment section. This is part of the assignment. So let's try and see who are the people who are more interested in active engagement with this particular civil service examination. Now let's look into the next article. This article says intermarriages can reduce caste tension, says the Supreme Court of India. When you look into the Indian society, most of the parents and in fact the seniors as well usually suggest what is called as the caste based marriages. Why? There are three reasons for it. One is the social status in the society, the other is the cultural priority, the third is what is called as the economic and the political affiliations. What do we mean by social status? Let's say for example, when it comes to India, we have what is called as the Varna system, or what we call as the caste having its own priority. Unfortunately, this should not be the norm when it comes to 21st century, but there is existence and prevalence and an option that has been picked up which is continuing in India. So when it comes to the social status, there are certain castes which are so-called upper castes are being given certain hierarchy, and there are so-called lower castes which are being given degraded authority as well. So what is happening in India? Because of the social status, children are made to marry within their particular community because of the social status that which is prevalent in India. Then we also have to look at cultural practices as well. What are the cultural practices? Let's say for example, we are speaking about the language, or let's say for example the food habits. When it comes to the food habits, let's say for example there is a particular person who is a vegetarian. There can also be another person who is a non-vegetarian as well. In case these two people marry together, it is generally assumed, or this is what is the perspective of the seniors or in fact the parents, that the girl and the boy would not be able to gel up. So what is the major problem? One is with respect to the food, the other is with respect to the language. What is it to do with language? Let's say for example, when there is family get together, in case there are people who have got married and the boy or the girl is from a different language and its background as well, they might be seen as an outsider, and as a result language can also be a barrier, which is why parents and the seniors want both the groom and the bride to be from the same caste. Apart from this, most of the caste in India also have social status, which also means they'll be economically in advantageous position. They may also wield political clout as well. In case there is intermixing of the caste and the marriage, they might also lose out on the economic and the political front as well, which is why when it comes to India, what we have is called as the caste marriages. But the Supreme Court in the present scenario has gone on to say that we are living in a globalized world. Most of the people who are now living are in nuclear families, which means to say they are not in joint families as well, and they also want to move in the globalized world as well. They also move from one place to another, which means they are not with their families all the time, which is what is leading to what is called as the intercaste marriage. So according to the Supreme Court of India, educated youngsters are showing the way forward to reduce what is called as the caste and the community tensions in India by tying the knot in intermarriages, says the Supreme Court of India. So the Supreme Court of India has taken one of the quotations from Dr. B.R. Ambedkar ji's book. It is the book called as Annihilation of the Caste. According to this particular book written by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar ji, he says that I'm convinced the real remedy is intermarriage. Fusion of blood can alone create the feeling of being kith and kin, and unless this feeling of kinship, of being kindred, becomes paramount, the separatist feeling, the feeling of being aliens created by caste, will not vanish. So he calls for the annihilation of the caste within the fold of a particular community. And now the Supreme Court has gone on to say that this very idea has to be developed, nurtured, encouraged, so that we have more people who are marrying within the intercaste, so that all the caste disturbances and tensions ultimately come down in the society. The Supreme Court further goes on to say that when it comes to the marriage, a person who is above 18 years of age, that is a girl, a boy who is above 21 years of age, if they have decided that they have to marry, the community or the caste should not be a impediment, or it should not be a barrier, says the Supreme Court of India. The Supreme Court has also taken into picture the aspects of fundamental rights as well. We have Article 21 of the Indian Constitution. Recently, with the Puttaswamy judgment, the Supreme Court has clearly said that right to privacy is part of Article 21. The Supreme Court in the present scenario has gone on to say intimacies of marriage lie within a core zone of privacy, and as a result, if that is violated, Article 21 of the Indian Constitution might be violated, says the Supreme Court of India. It is this that we have to understand in reference to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article says governance and lawmaking should be left to the legislature. The article here is basically speaking about separation of powers. Separation of powers is also called as trias politica. What is this whole concept of separation of powers? This is one of the important paradigms when it comes to the constitutionalism. What is this all about? Let's say, for example, if we have given all the power to one single person, what would it result in? It results in what is called as autocracy, or the authoritative rule by that particular person. So instead, what we do is we distribute the powers among three organs of the state. We have the legislature, which will make the laws. We have the executive, which will implement the laws. We have the judiciary, which will interpret the laws. So what is this separation of powers is that there is a clear-cut demarcation about the powers that they have within their boundaries. So this is what is called a separation of powers. So the Minister of Law in the present scenario has gone on to say, as much as we have judiciary, which is part of the basic structure, the separation of powers is also part of the basic structure, and this particular meaning was given in the Keshavananda Bharti case. So what we have is, as much as judiciary, which is part of the basic structure, which cannot be nullified by the parliament, same is with the separation of powers as well. Why is the law minister bringing this into picture? That is because you have number of cases where we actually see what is called as the judicial overreach. What is this judicial overreach? Ideally, the Supreme Court of India will have to only interpret the laws, pass the judgment whether that particular law is right or wrong. But what is the Supreme Court doing? The Supreme Court is giving directions to the legislature, making laws, which is also called as judicial overreach as well. Ideally, when it comes to making laws, it is the domain of the legislature, but the Supreme Court is entering this particular domain, and when it makes laws in place of legislature, that is what is called as judicial overreach. Judicial activism is good, which means there are certain sections of the people who are not getting justice, which is where the Supreme Court steps into the picture, using its extraordinary power and providing justice to the people of the country. That is what is called as judicial activism. So in the present scenario, the law minister has gone on to say, yes, you have every right for judicial activism. Yes, you have every right to accept the public interest litigation as well. But when these public interest litigations are just accepted for the sake of it, and you guide us what to do, this is where there is judicial overreach. You are stepping into the shoes of legislature, which should ideally not happen, says the law minister. The article here further speaks about the arbitration and conciliation bill, which was passed recently by the Lok Sabha. Going forward, we will have more articles, we will have more provisions which will be discussed in the newspaper. That is when we will take up this in a comprehensive basis. As of now, this is all you have to understand in reference to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article here is speaking about excessive alcohol, which can cause irreversible changes to the DNA, says this article. What is the context? There was a study that was conducted by the National Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences in Bengaluru. There was a general assumption. What was it about? Let's say there is a person who has the habit of drinking, that is, he has the habit of consuming alcohol, and he has consumed for, let's say, about 5 years or 10 years, and after a particular period of time, he quits consuming alcohol. So it was generally assumed the minute he quits, the body would be able to recover, and this will not have much impact to the body and to the DNA as well as gene. But according to the study made by Nimhans in Bangalore, it says that even after the droppage or discontinuity of the alcohol, there can be issues, and these are irreversible. This can damage and cause harm to the DNA, says this article. So according to this article, yes, every particular person's gene and the DNA will be transmitted by their parents. This is what naturally happens, but there could be problems as well if it is transferred from one parent to the child as well. But in this particular case, naturally, there might have been good genes that might be given by the parents to their children, but their lifestyle diseases, lifestyle issues, drinking, boozing, so on and so forth will ultimately harm the gene as well as the gene pool and the DNA, says this article. It is this that we have to understand in reference to this article. Now let's look into the mains practice questions. A Polist approach to films and media can only grow a monoculture of propaganda. Do you agree? Justify. Indigenous knowledge is an invaluable basis for developing adaptation and natural resource management strategies in response to environmental and other forms of change. Discuss. So please write all your answers on the comment section, peer review, and also encourage your friends to write more. So this is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.